Any GUS niggas, Ethiopian kings, we bring things. Ooh. Any GUS niggas, Ethiopian kings, we bring things. Them some lyrics I wrote back in 1994, maybe 1992. Yeah. Hey, yo. Get the Anchor app, y'all, so y'all can listen to your boy. For real. Y'all can get the raw, uncut news. Yeah. Get the Anchor app. Peace and greetings. This is Yasha Israel, a.k.a. Terry Whitfield, from the Yasha Israel to Dario Terry Whitfield Show podcast. Doing what I love to do best. Preaching and teaching and listening to my favorite music. And I'm getting in that zone. I want y'all to listen to my Uncle Tommy for a minute.
We are tossed and driven on this restless sea. Somber skies and howling timbers often seem to hide the bright sunshine. When the land been destroyed, when the mists are rolled away. Paul said we see through a glass darkly right now, but we're going to understand it better
right now. But we're going to understand it better right back.
You don't know all there is to know right now.
See, how many of y'all know that we don't know all there is to know right now?
Y'all say it with me.
Y'all say it with me.
Yes, sir.
Do it, company, do it. Yes. I got something good for y'all today. We're tossed and driven. On this restless sea of time. my soul says thank you on tonight. Whew, that's my favorite song ever. This is Yasha Ben Israel, a.k.a. Terry Tadario Whitfield, for the Yasha Ben Israel, Terry Tadario Whitfield Show and Podcast. You know, sometimes we gotta cry sometimes, y'all. You know, we gotta go through some things. Woo! My soul says hallelujah on tonight. Yes, yes, yes. Woo, boy, I got some good fire and information for y'all today. I just want to sit back and just don't talk and just play some of the words, the songs, and the melodies of our story. I don't want to talk too much today, y'all. I just want to show y'all what this thing is about and what the Lord has caused me to understand on this day. Hallelujah. Toda Yahweh. Woo, Bahashem Yahweh. Hannah. Woo, hallelujah. Woo, Anna de Barit. Anna de Barit, Bahalashon. Hakadash. Yes, I'm speaking in the tongues as the Spirit gives me utterance. My Uncle Tommy talked about how the Apostle Paul said, that we see through the glass darkly. Yes, I'm in the studio. But I have this particular app I'm going through is through my phone. It's going to get better by and by, y'all. Yes, it is. But anyway, back at the ranch. The Apostle Paul said we see through a glass darkly. Ain't that something? But we will understand it by and by. That's what my Uncle Tommy said. And I am here to bear witness to this truth. And I would like for y'all to bear witness to this truth with me. But the first person that I want to introduce to the stage is the great historian, scholar, university and college professor, great debater, great lecturer, great author, and a man who has dedicated his life to African history. The great, noble Dr. Ben Yosef Ben Yakanan. Understand that Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan is a black man with roots to Ethiopia, and he is an Israelite, a Hebrew, a Jew, bloodline and born. Let's listen to the elder, Dr. Ben. Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan is a great, 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 great black man. He is of the elite scholars of our time and probably the greatest scholar that we have had on African history probably since the universities of Sankore, Quetta, and Timbuktu. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, because this video is geared for children. You may not like it, but it is geared for children. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan.
Response. By the way, I have to let the rabbi know I'm much as a Jew as he is, born of a Jewish mother, Yemenite grandmother, a Yemenite Puerto mother, Ethiopian Hebrew father, Beta Israel, by the way, they call us Falasha for whatever their reasons. Thus I am as much a Jew as the rabbi or the grand rabbi in Israel, any of the grand rabbis in Israel. If the rabbi is stating here that in the book of Genesis there is no mention of the extermination, and I use the word genocide.
Woo! Stop. Let me repeat that again. Let me rewind that again and let Dr. Ben repeat that again.
Dr. Ben, what is your response? By the way, I have to let the rabbi know I'm much of a Jew as he is, born of a Jewish mother, a Yemenite grandmother.
I have to let the Jewish rabbi know that I am as much a Jew as he is, born of a Yemenite mother, born of a Yemenite grandmother. Wow. See, what Dr. Ben is doing here is that he understands original Hebrew culture, a culture that existed before the 1960s when African Americans left the Americas and went to Israel, see? Back in the 60s, when black African Americans from Chicago, New York, last and most definitely not the least, but the greatest, Detroit, Michigan. I have to say Detroit, Michigan because I live there. And there is little to no white people as far as the eye can see. You talking about a city that of 49 years of my life, I have seen dominated by black people. And it wasn't until the last mayor. The first mayor was Coleman Young, and he came in, I think, in the early 70s or late 60s. Surely before I was born. All my life, Coleman Young and a long line of black mayors ruled over Detroit and everything. All black people, all the way up until Kwame Kilpatrick. Kwame Kilpatrick went to Israel, and he saw what the Israelites were doing because he was a part. His family, his mother, not his daddy. His daddy was gangster cat, street nigga cat, you know. His mama was the intellectual, Carolyn Kilpatrick. She was a part of the Shrine of the Black Madonna. Bernard, his daddy, was too. And Kilpatrick went over to Israel, to those Negroes who left his city that he dominated and ruled over, the Shah, the prince, the governor, the mayor over. And he went over to Israel and saw how Ben Aminim had that little city just, whoo, glorious. Little kids walked up to Kwame Kilpatrick that was able to speak 4 and 5 languages. Okay? Kwame Kilpatrick came back to Detroit and was so inspired that he started erecting houses everywhere throughout the city. He went to federal penitentiary. Kwame Kilpatrick do not understand why he went to federal penitentiary. He don't understand who he was. Good thing that the president, Trump, gave him manumissions. He let him out. But anyway, it was the Israelites from the 60s that went over to Israel. And because these African Americans been claiming to be Israelites and went back with the scholarly teachings of men like Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan, because Dr. Elder Rabbi Ben Ami, as well as Prince Aziel, both studied the works of Dr. Ben Yochanan. And Dr. Ben Yochanan has likewise observed those black men and those black women over in Israel flourishing as black Israelite Jews. He also saw the oppression that was coming against him. And he, as a Jew who never followed Judaism from the lineage of the mother, saw the white Jewish rabbinate reconstruct and make up laws out of thin air under the law of return that your mother had to be a Jew. They made that law specifically for African Americans to keep them from claiming to be Israel, because our paternal DNA goes back to Israel. You can go on my YouTube page and see it. I got the evidence. I did my DNA work. So what Dr. Ben was doing here, he was debating this Jewish rabbi. And tactfully, before he could go anywhere, Dr. Ben attacked him with my mama was a Jew and my grandmama was a Jew. I'm not like the African Americans who don't know their history like that. I know my history because my people was from Ethiopia. You people have never enslaved us. You ran us away, you ran us off, but you never captured us, you never enslaved us. And nowhere ever in our Judaism, going back to the thousands of years for Dr. Ben, standing in proxy of him, I am an Egyptian scholar, teacher, university professor, and lecturer, in colleges and universities, churches and halls, all throughout this country, United States of America, and in Europe, and in Africa. So Dr. Ben had to undermine him. Let us play that back one more time so you can really, really hear what Dr. Ben is saying.
What is your response? By the way, I have to let the rabbi know I'm much of a Jew as he is. Born of a Jewish mother, a Yemenite grandmother, a Yemenite Peruvian mother, Ethiopian Hebrew father, Beta Israel, by the way, they call us Falasha for whatever their reasons. Thus I am as much a Jew as the rabbi or the grand rabbi in Israel, any of the grand rabbis in Israel. If the rabbis...
I am much of a Jew as any mother in Israel, any grandmother in Israel. Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan said, I am as much a Jew as any rabbi in Israel and any grand rabbi in Israel. Do you people are understanding and hearing what this grand master teacher is saying? And in the skill and craft and art of debate, do you see what he is doing to his opponent? As he is giving the truth, before he gives the truth, he laid out a premise so he could set him in a box. See? Because, see, if you heard the other guy's debate, he was trying to set up white supremacy. I'm white and I'm Jewish, and you're not. He didn't say that, but he was trying to allude to that. So he couldn't go there again. Dr. Ben spanked his hand. let us get back to some of the other great words and quotes of the great Dr. Yosef Ben Yachanan, great professor, grand master, Egyptologist, the one who is the supreme angel. I think of the Christmas song when I think of Dr. Beer. Hark, the herald angels sing. Listen to the forcing message. Go forth. That's what that means. That's what that means in modern English. Yeah. And mixed with the Hebrew thought. Let's get back to Dr. Beer. This stuff is good, y'all.
Thus I am as much a Jew as the rabbi or the grand rabbi in Israel, any of the grand rabbis in Israel.
A grand rabbi.
If the rabbi is stating here that in the book of Genesis there is no mention of the extermination, and I use the word genocide, of the 7 tribes of the Amalekites, the Hittites, the Moabites, the Jebusites, he in his own statement stated that this is ameliorated somewhat.
He is talking about that in the Bible there's no mention of the complete extermination of the in your English Bibles it may appear that way, but in the Hebrew Bible there's no mention of the complete extermination of these Canaanite tribes. Now, why Dr. Ben had to say that? Because it is important to understand, okay? It's important to understand that the children of Israel had a very, very close relationship with these Canaanite tribes. And when Joshua ran them up out of Israel, they went to the Mediterranean and Africa, North Africa, West Africa. They became the Berbers at first, the Amizag, the Tuareg, the Masmuda, the Sanhaja, the great Sanhaja. Let me tell you a little something about the Sanhaja before I get back to the great Dr. Ben, okay? And I've told y'all this before in other videos. I've never said this on a podcast. But I want to talk about the Sanhaja. In the book of the Golden Age, the Golden Age of the Moors. In the book, The Golden Age of the Moors, edited by Ivan Van Sertima, I bought the book at the Shrine of the Black Madonna bookstore, a bookstore and a religious Christian organization that taught that Jesus was black, by a Jaramuja Abibi, Swahili and Arabic and Hebrew, Ohubu is the root, Hoheb, okay? A Jaramuja Abibi, American name Albert Clegg, a man who I have met personally. I have the book. I have the receipt with the Shrine of the Black Madonna stamped on it. On the very second page, if you go to my video, my YouTube page, Tadario Whitfield, or no, go to Yasha Ben Israel because they banned the Tadario Whitfield page. Go to the Yasha Ben Israel page. That's YASHABENYISHRAEL on YouTube. You'll see on page 2, I have this book, Runoko Rashidi, the student of Ivan Van Sertima, signed this book on the 1st of January, the 28th day, the 2017 year. And it's one of the reasons why Facebook made it so important. The white Jew, Mark Zuckerberg, and his hatred for black people claiming to be Israel, which is the same reason why Dr. Ben is having this debate with a white Jew rabbi. And it's sad that he had to explain to this man that I am as much a Jew as you or any grand rabbi and grand rabbi in Israel today. Sad that he have to explain that. On my Yasha Ben Israel page, Facebook got it banned because there's a picture of me and the great Runoko Rashidi with this very book I got in my hand right now. They don't want y'all seeing that kind of power. They don't want y'all to know who I am. I don't know whether it's a protective mechanism or whether it's straight up oppression and suppression. Now, in the book, The Golden Age of the Moors, page 61, of the chapter called The Moorish Occupation of Spain, which starts on page 57. You have this chapter and the previous chapter. The very chapter, I think the 2 chapters before that. I'm looking to make sure that I'm accurate because I don't want to spit out any wrong information. Most of y'all don't like to read. So I'm trying to get it right so I can send you exactly where to go. Starting on page 27, it is The Moors in Antiquity by James E. Brunson and Runoko Rashidi. And then, that's another chapter before. There's 2 chapters in the book, The Golden Age of the Moors, edited by Ivan Van Sertima. There's 2 chapters in that book that is written by Runoko Rashidi and James E. Brunson. In the 2nd chapter that they have written together, you're talking about a dual research. Man, I'm just amazed looking at all of the pictures that they have of cartouches. And man, these guys got their stuff together. But on page 49, there's a chapter called The Moors Before the Invasion of Spain. And it talked about these groups of black people that was in Africa, that was in Spain, getting ready to take back Spain for the 2nd time. And these Africans were the Moors, okay? And they lived in Africa, emanating from Morocco. You go to the scriptures in the Bible, you'll read about when Jesus Christ was being crucified. The man who carried his cross was Simon, Simon the Niger, Simon of Cyrene, Simon of Cyrencia, Simon the Niger. You can hear about him and see about him recorded in the books of Acts, the 13th chapter in the very first verse. And I'll read it to you. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon that was called Niger, that's 2, and Lucius, that's 3, of Cyrene, and Manaen, that's 4, which had been brought up with Herod of Tetrarch and Saul, not the Old Testament Saul, for that was thousands of years ago. We're talking about the New Testament Saul, which is Paul here. So you're talking about Barnabas, Simeon, Lucius, Cyrene, and Manaen, 5 men that were from Cyrene. They were called Niger. What is Niger? Is there a land called Niger? Yes, Nigeria, northern western Africa. For Nigeria nor Ghana is in today the place where it was 1,000 years ago. Or surely was it that of 2,000 years ago when this here roughly took place. I felt the need to lay that down so you could have a greater understanding to what Runoko Rashidi and Dr. Bronson was talking about on page 61. I would like to back up because that is 3 paragraphs here that I like to read. And I would have to go back to the 57th page because the pages between 57 and 60 are all illustrations and great pictures. El-Kahina, the woman, Dahina El-Kahina, that's who he's talking about here. These 2 men, Bronson and Rashidi. Actually, I'll go up one more paragraph, the Masmudas. The Masmuda Berbers were described as black by Abu Shammah in his Katib al-Rav-Datayin. They settled in several parts of Spain, including Morah, Cordoba, Valencia, Guadalajara, and Santander. Masmuda Berbers also settled in northern Senegal. Neither did wealth and prestige escape the Masmuda. The viciously mentioned founder of the powerful Almohade dynasty, Abd al-Mumin, was a Masmuda Berber. The very first sentence said that the Masmuda Berbers were described as black by Abu Shammah in his Kitab al-Radatain. Next paragraph, 57 page. El-Kahina, here El-Kahina. El-Kahina, understanding this is the 6th century, 690, AD, at a time when Islam was threatening to invade, for she was called El-Kahin, that's Arabic, because her story is passed down in the Arabic Chronicles, which is the reason why I learned Arabic, so I can go back and read the information that Brunson and Rashidi was talking about, because I read about those great men's work. So I wanted to learn Arabic so I can read this stuff firsthand. And it is so. For it was Dahia Hakahina at first. For she was a Hebrew, which is Dahia the priestess. Okay? Then Arabic chroniclers called her, in translation of that Hebrew, Dahir el Kahina. Okay? For in Arabic, there's no definition of the word Kahina. So they couldn't twist it or change it. They just left it as that. For in Hebrew, Kahina is the feminine of the word Kohen, which is the priest. Okay? El Kahina, circa 690 AD, the woman who led the most determined resistance to the early Arab invasion of North Africa, was a Sanhaja Berber. Now, I just explained to you this connection between Israel and the Sanhaja Berbers. That's one Berber clan. El Kahina, the woman who led the most determined resistance to the early Arab invasion of North Africa, was a Sanhaja Berber. She was not an Arab because she led the resistance against them. So she had the name Kahina, which was a Hebrew name. And it was Dahir HaKahina, not Dahir El Kahina. And then when she lost the victory at 100+ years old on the battlefield, tearing they butts up, the story was told about this woman. Man, and they did not hold no punches against her. They feared her, and they said it. Her name was Dahir El Kahina, translated in Hebrew, Dahir HaKahina. El Kahina, the woman who led the most determined resistance to early Arab invasion, of North Africa, was a Sanhaja Berber. With the invasion of Spain, many Sanhajas settled near Seville in Sidonia. What is Sidonia? From Sidon. Sidonia is from Sidon. It's one of the 7 tribes that Dr. Yosef Ben Yachanan was talking about that was not exterminated. They went to the Mediterranean, and the Israelites joined them. We have historical professors professing this. Yeah, this stuff is getting good, ain't it? We must note that since the Arabic chroniclers, history tellers came in under the Moorish Empire, the word Sidon came to be known and equated with one of the largest cities in Lebanon, okay, which is somewhere to the south of Beirut, and it basically is the Lebanese capital of Beirut today. That area was called in ancient times Sidon. When Hebrew, Phoenician, and Aramaic dominated that land was called the land of Sidon. And because the inhabitants that are not Sidonians, who invaded the land and came in with Islam and other movements, are there now, they call themselves Canaanites or Phoenicians. But that's because they're living in Phoenician land. Okay? That land, you won't see it recorded as Sidon today. You will see it recorded as the land of Saida. Okay? Which in Arabic means happy, or Said. Okay? Okay, now we got the land. That's the land. And Joshua came and pushed them out of that land. Okay? The Sidonians, the Canaanites, because that was the land of Canaan first. It's right near like northern Israel area. Okay? This here, facts, Sidon, Saida. When I be in work, I walk up to the Arabs and say, "Hal anta Said al-yawm?" Anna Said. Hal anta Said al-yawm? I'm happy today. I'm happy. Are you happy today? Hal anta Said al-yawm? Anna Said al-kol yawm. I'm happy. The whole day. Yeah, I speak good Arabic. وأنا مدبريت إبريت. And I speak Hebrew. Rabba tov. Very, very, very good. So I understand this stuff. So, Sidon, being the land of Canaan, as we turn to the book of Bereshit, okay, the 10th chapter, all right, in the book of Genesis, the 10th chapter, in the 15th verse, and it says, and Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgasite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8. Dr. Ben counted. Well, you go in 18. You got the Arvite 9, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite, and afterwards were the family of the Canaan spread abroad. You got like 10, 11, 12 different damn Canaanite tribes. But Dr. Ben, trust me, was speaking of a 7 for a specific reason. And the 7 has to do with Sidon. And in the book of the golden age of the Moors, he's speaking about the Sidonians. Because as I just read, where it said El-Kahina, the woman who led the most determined resistance to the early Arab invasion in North Africa, was a Sanhaja Berber. With the invasion of Spain, many Sanhajas settled in Seville, Sidonia. Now, our scholars are saying Sidonia is in the land of Tyre, which is in the land of Spain. Tyre and Tarshish is your today's Portugal and Spain. Yep. So, he said, with the invasion of Spain, the Sanhajas settled in Seville, in Sidonia, Alicante, Marcia, Guadalajara, and in the region of Saragossa. The Marinids, who in 1275 and the Marinids, who in 1275 invaded Spain from Morocco and defeated Christians Castile, were Sanhaja Berbers. Wow. So Brunson and Rashidi is saying that the Marinids, who were in Spain, who defeated the Christians in Castile in 1275, were Sanhaja Berbers. They go forth to say the Sanhaja is written several ways in various texts, including Zanata, Znaga, Zinaga, Zatana used a Libico-Berber script. I have to skip over 2 more pages to page 61 because those were the pages where the beautiful, beautiful illustrations existed. He was saying that the Zanata used the liberal Berber script and made Zanaga a Cushitic language. Wow. I always asked what happened to the Canaanites and the Israelites, and how and why did they adopt a Canaanite Bantu language? Because that was the only misconnection that I had in the puzzle. I was telling the Mighty Hebrew about that. And the Mighty Hebrew said that some things ain't for us to know. I said, brother. Hey, my Uncle Thomas Whitfield said we will understand it better by and by. Yeah. See, what happened here is that the Zanata was written several ways in various texts, including Zanata, Zanaga, the word Naga, nigger, Nigeria, Nagra, and Zanaga. The Zanata used a Libico-Berber script and spoke Zanaga, a Cushitic language. This seemed to be the basis for the name Senegal. The Zanata are also credited with having introduced the camel into the Maghreb. The Sanhaja Berbers, wow, that's a new one. The Sanhaja Berbers of the Western Sahara were composed of both sedentary people and nomads. Included amongst the nomads, Sanhaja, were the Lamata and the Lamtuna Berbers. Again, included amongst the nomad Sanhaja were the Lamta and the Lamtuna Berbers. The Sanhaja, known as the Mulathamum people of the Bevel, were responsible for the second significant Moorish invasion of Spain. So there was a group amongst the Sanhajas called the Malatuman. They were the people that was responsible for the second invasion of Spain. They're talking about the one including Tariq el-Jabbar Tariq. Tariq, from which Gibraltar was named after, the general who invaded Spain in 711. In 1070, so the Sanhaja, known as the Malathumum people of the Vale, were responsible for the second significant Moorish invasion of Al-Andalus, the Arabic name for Islamic Spain. For before it was Spain, yeah, that was the Arabic name, and before it was before the Arabic name Al-Andalus, it was called Iberia, and a Hebrew name under the Hebrew dynasty, and prior to that, under the Phoenician dynasty, it was called Tarshish Watari, Tarshish and Tyre. So the Sanhaja Berbers, known as the Malathumum people of the Vale, were responsible for the second significant Moorish invasion of Al-Andalus, the Arabic name for Islamic Spain. Repetition is good now. In 1095, the Sanhaja Berbers initiated the Almoravid dynasty. Now, I would have thought that Dr. Dana Marnichi Reynolds would have said something like this. But this is coming from Brunson and Rashidi. Guys who do research in a whole nother field of black research. This is what makes this so great. This is the area who had of Dr. Dana Manichi Reynolds. This is her area. And she has her role in this book as well. So, in 1095, the Sanhaja Berbers initiated the Almoravid dynasty. The Almoravid dynasty was called the Empire of the Two Shores. It lasted 100 years and stretched from the Senegal River in the west of Africa to the Ebro River in northern Spain. Why would there be a river in Spain, in northern Spain, called Ebro? And it was also called Ebro when Spain was called El Andalus. Because it was called Ebro because before El Andalus, it was called Iberia. And the river was the Ibero River. Okay? And we see the connection between the word Naga and nigger. Okay? And the river Niger. Okay? How these people always named the rivers after themselves. That could be traced all the way back to Israelite roots. In 1095, the Sanhaja Berbers initiated the Almoravid dynasty. The Almoravid dynasty was called the Empire of the Two Shores. It lasted 100 years and stretched from the Senegal River in West Africa to the Ebro River in northern Spain. There has been much discussion and speculation about the Sanhaja face mufflers. In Islamic Spain, the veil was considered a privilege of the true Almoravids, and its wearing were forbidden to all but the Sanhaja. So it was a special clan in the Almoravids that wore this special veil, this special muffler, this face muffler. And it was for the Sanhaja. It was a true privilege. In Islamic Spain, the veil was considered a privilege of the true Almoravids, and its wearing was forbidden to all but the Sanhaja. It was something like a uniform or distinctive dress of the ruling class. According to something like a uniform or distinctive dress of the ruling class, according to Ibn Hakal, since the day they were created, their faces have never been seen unless it be their eyes. This is because they muffle their faces when they are young and they grow up with that custom. You don't even need to see the sons of God. All you need to do is feel his power. You're not even worthy. Hey, the Israelites felt like you're not worthy looking at God. The scripture says in the 82nd Psalms, I believe, is it the 82nd, the 82nd 6, something like that, that ye are Elohim, because ye are B'nai Elion, because you are gods, because you are the sons of the Most High. You shouldn't even look at God and live. Arrogance, huh? Man, cut that stuff out. And y'all call Yasha Ben Israel arrogant. This is because they muffle their faces when they are young and grow up with this custom. According to al-Bakri, in 1078, they were amongst the Spanish Berbers, blacks, professing Judaism. Again, according to al-Bakri, in 1078, there were amongst the Sanhaja Berbers blacks professing Judaism. These blacks were referred to as the Bafor. The Bafor practiced Judaism before they were overcome and absorbed by the Almoravid. The Bafur and Sanhaja are both linked by the way through their association with the early rulers of the Ghanaian Empire of Ghana. Woo! We will understand it better. I know we will by it. We'll understand it by and by, y'all. This stuff is real, man. This stuff is real. Wow. I had to take a breather on that. Just think about that.
Dr. Ben, what is your response? By the way, I have to let the rabbi know I'm much a Jew as he is. Born of a Jewish mother, a Yemenite grandmother, a Yemenite Peruvian mother, Ethiopian Hebrew father, Beta Israel, by the way, they call us Falasha for whatever their reasons. Thus, I am as much a Jew as the rabbi or the grand rabbi in Israel, any of the grand rabbis in Israel. If the rabbi is stating here that in the book of Genesis, there is no mention of the extermination, and I use the word genocide, of the 7 tribes of the Amalekites, the Hittites, the Moabites, the Jebusites, he in his own statement stated that this is ameliorated somewhat in the book of Samuel. Everybody says that. But the book of Samuel doesn't change the book of Genesis. And remember that Genesis wasn't written first. It was Exodus. It's at the Council of Jamnia that they decided to write Genesis. Next, since there is no Jewish race, you know, you have Indian Jews from India, from Kashmir Jews look like any Indian. You have ourselves from Ethiopia. By the way, the rabbi wouldn't forget that it says Moses married the daughter of the high priest of Ethiopia, or Cush. Being a rabbi, you will know this. Second, moreover, about the bar mitzvah, and I went through one like the rabbi went through one at around the same period of time. Is the rabbi saying that the bar mitzvah is not a commitment to the people? Is it the Torah demanding? And I won't talk about the Talmud. Talmud is not Torah. The Torah is supposed to have been written by God or passed down, although it was in fact written at the Sanhedrin.
You hear I end that segment with Dr. Ben saying that he is a Jew, that he has taken the bar mitzvah, and that he followed the Torah, because the Torah was said to have been written by God. He made it clear that he don't follow the Talmud. And no African Jew should. Not no ancient African Israelite. Now, those that came along after the great conversions, and that may be mixed breed and half breeds and bloodline go back to converts, you may have that issue with the Talmud. But we don't. Okay? Dr. Ben just made it clear that he was a black Jew.
All right, I'm glad that you brought that last point, so I work from the last forward or backwards. Isn't it strange that just yesterday that the Jews in America found out that they are black Jews? Isn't it brought that last point, so I work from the last forward or backwards. Isn't it strange that just yesterday that the Jews in America found out that they are black Jews? Isn't it strange? There's a statement later on, many blacks do not understand that they are indeed Jews. Now that was...
Wow. Do y'all see what these high intellectuals are talking about? A Jewish rabbi and an African Jew who's an African historian. Do you hear the stuff that they're talking about upstairs?
Judaism and all of Judaism and the Jewish people come from Egypt. Therefore, they are African
and therefore there is a statement later on that many blacks do not understand that they are indeed Jews. Now that raises to us a very curious question: why the constant need to inject a racial quota into a diverse historical context, which we would acknowledge, but yet on the other hand, as we sit here having watched Operation Moses and the ingathering of Ethiopian Jews into Israel, why then the need to define by race as what is essentially authentic in Judaism strikes us as a contradiction that at least can possibly be interpreted in terms of current political context, but certainly not by history.
Right. All right. I'm glad that you brought that last point, so I work from the last forward or backwards. Isn't it strange that just yesterday that the Jews in America found out that they are black Jews? That last point, so I work from the last forward or backwards. Isn't it strange that just yesterday that the Jews in America found out that they are black Jews? That you brought that last point, so I work from the last forward or backwards. Isn't it strange that just yesterday that the Jews in America found out that they are black Jews? Right. I'm glad that you brought that last point, so I work from the last forward or backwards. Isn't it strange that just yesterday that the Jews in America found out that they are black Jews? Isn't it strange also that you don't consider us Jews because when we go to Israel, you're still demanding that we must, quote unquote, reconvert. Who said we converted in the first place? Who said, what right have European Jews, who don't belong there either, have a right to tell us and to carry us to a shameful,
European Jews who are
no, any more than we do. Because the Russian Jews come, and many of them not circumcised, many of them never have a bar mitzvah, and we have to, nobody asked them to reconvert. We have to go there and a fast.
He said you got many white Jews that come to Israel that ain't even circumcised. And y'all don't even make them convert. But y'all want this white supremacy idea over the black Israelites. Man, that stuff is damn ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous and it's crazy. It's the same people that Dr. Ben was talking about earlier, that they made this crazy law that your mama had to be a Jew for. You made it for black people. You made that law for black Israelites. Dr. Ben ain't crazy, y'all. Dr. Ben is a genius. You people, Dr. Ben is a genius. He talked about, but y'all force us to convert. Y'all got white people coming in and flooding this in to make this a white haven over here. Minus the law, religion. They just throw the religious rules and laws out the window for them heathens over there. Let them practice heathenism in holy Israel. And you wonder why Hamas is over there sending bombs and all of that stuff. Them people been over there for years and years. They don't see the reflection of Afro-Asiatic culture in you people. They see it in Brother Ben Hamid and them. That's for real. Y'all want to kick them out of the land because they won't convert. But you didn't force the Russians to convert, or any of the others. Let's continue to listen to Dr. Ben.
In terms of current political context, but certainly not by history.
Right. All right. I'm glad that you brought that last point, so I work from the last forward or backwards. Isn't it strange that just yesterday that the Jews in America found out that they are black Jews? Isn't it strange also that you don't consider us Jews because when we go to Israel, you're still demanding that we must, quote unquote, reconvert. Who said we converted in the first place? Who said, what right have European Jews, who don't belong there either, have a right to tell us and to carry us to a shameful,
European Jews who are
who don't know any more than we do. Because the Russian Jews come, and many of them not circumcised, many of them never have a bar mitzvah, and we have to, nobody asked them to reconvert. We have to go there and a fast called circumcision and I wanted to use the Hebrew word at the moment. And we're supposed to go through all that. Next thing, Rabbi, how come my uncle, Tamirat Emmanuel, came here in 1935 to raise money when Italy invaded Ethiopia? We were 5 million. When we left, we were 50,000. The Jewish community in America refused, denied that we existed. Up to now in Israel, you have two Grand Rabbi at least, the Sephardic Grand Rabbi and the Ashkenazi Grand Rabbi, the European Grand Rabbi, that refused to recognize that we were even Jews. Only the Sephardic Grand Rabbi started with Obadiah Yosef when he was the chief rabbi. Now let's go back. So that it's a farce about Israel telling us to come there for whatever the reason. In that, Israel to this day, from 1947, has in the Knesset a petition for the acceptance of Jews from Ethiopia, the right to return. To this day, it has not been approved. It is still being tabled every year. Now, so that you try to show the liberality of white American Jews when it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at all. Because if you're saying that you're bringing us back, then we should go back as Jews, not as something that you're going to make us over there. Who gives you the authority to say who is a Jew and who isn't a Jew? You talk about my desire for the political aristocracy, my political sense. Well, it was obvious that no one questioned the European Jews. Am I to believe that European Jews don't have a white politics here? When blacks move into a Jewish neighborhood, white Jewish neighborhood, doesn't the white Jew move like the white Christian? I mean, doesn't the white Jew have white flight to the suburb? No. So, as a Jew, are you saying that I should behave as a Jew, period, in the United States, that means white Jew, in the United States, and run from the blacks? And when I come here, my acceptance in Judaism isn't the same as when you come. When you come, if you came as a white Jew, and the white Jew, and you deal with whites. Now, I'm a black Jew, isolated from Judaism by virtue of that because of my blackness. When I go into a synagogue, most synagogues I go into, the first thing they tell me, and I ask Jew, when you become Jew, did your parents convert? When? You don't have a white person walk into the synagogue and say that. Go back about the Jews learning the Hammurabi Code. When you talk about Hammurabi Code, you're talking about 2000 BC, just the other day, historically speaking. The concept of one God didn't come from Moses nor Hammurabi. Akhenaten preached one God before Moses was born. The Aaron about the being African. If you're born in America, you are an American Jew, wouldn't you say? Now, where was Aaron born? Where was Moses born? And Sarah, Aaron's sister, and all of them, Miriam. Where were all of this supposed to be happening? Before the Jews come in contact again as a group. Not Moses, not Abraham alone and his little family. From Abraham and excluding Joseph. From then on, according to Torah, for approximately 400 years, everything the Jews learned was in Egypt. Everything. Because from the time of Joseph, Exodus said, Genesis ends, and Moses died. And there came a time when Joseph died. Because of this bad period that came, who knew not Joseph. From then on, we have to hear about the plight of the Jewish people and so forth. But before that, from the time of Potiphar, all the way down to the Exodus, isn't it everything the Jew learned was in there? It was no Hammurabi Code. And I said the basic foundation of Judaism, one God and all that, came out of Africa. Egypt is still there, not in the Middle East.
Time for another break.
Wow, man. Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan. We, the black Jews. Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan. We, the black Jews, y'all. Hallelujah. That will conclude segment 1. Stay tuned for segment 2 of Yasha Ben Israel and Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan. Woo! We the Black Jews, Volume 2. Let's get it, y'all.